We're taught in school. Whenever we want to learn about something, we go to the library or check out a book. But here's the part that's rugged, is how do you know it's a good book? How do you know if that book is really telling the truth? From studying cultures to studying ancient archaeology and things like that, how do you know it's really true? The best thing to do, if you're really interested in that, whatever topic it is, the best thing to do is to read as much as you can from different sources. And you'll get the gist of things. And even then, it may not be entirely correct. But you have a look into that area now. It still might not be correct, but at least you're on the right track. That's the important thing, is to be on the right track instead of just making things up like some people do. I found a feather. Oh, I bet that means I'm a shaman. Seriously, there's people who do that, who think like that. And they wake up and they say, I had a dream, and not to go. I'm not trying to do a Martin Luther King here, but I had a dream and I heard the word Waru Yishi Yaru. That must be Lakota. So they go on the internet, look for somebody who's Lakota and deals with language to find out what that means, because they think they've received an ancient message from some ancient Lakota spirit who's chosen them to become a shaman. But they want somebody to validate them. They want somebody to say to them, wow, that's really cool that you received that dream. You know what those words mean? That means you're supposed to be a shaman. That's what they want to hear. I never say that to anybody. And I get these kind of messages several times a week from people that talk like this. It all follows a certain pattern. I see this as an interesting phenomena. To me, it just verifies this is a mental disorder. For one thing, this phrase, Waru Yishi Yaru, there's one letter in there that does not exist in the Lakota language. That's how I know they're bullshitting. Yeah? That's one way. There's another way too. Actually, there's several ways. This is usually a personality disorder. And sometimes they'll see things, but that's usually because their disorder is evolving inside of them to the point where they're starting to hallucinate. And hallucinate does not just mean to see things, it also means to hear things too that aren't really there. Sometimes people hallucinate their desires, they hallucinate their worries, their concerns that can appear in the form of people. But mostly that happens in dreams. But some people, like I said, they have personality disorders and they go too far in this, they go extreme, and it starts to appear to them in the conscious reality. And it's not a spirit, it's not a sacred ET or whatever. No, it's a disorder that's manifesting itself in the conscious world. And only that person sees it because that person has it. It's a disease. Because you're talking about real holy people. There's protocols that have to be followed. Really sacred protocols that have to be followed. That shows that one is becoming a holy person. So that's the extreme version. But there are people who really do want to learn. And unfortunately, they think that everything that has the word Indian in it, or Lakota, they think that all of it is good. They think all of it is good. They don't even question if it's good or not. The guy that wrote it has an Indian last name. Must be good. They assume that everything is true. Well, Lakota Star Knowledge teaches that how you see the world is a reflection of how you are inside of yourself. If you believe everything that everybody says, that says something about you, that there's something wrong, there's something unhealthy. about that. It's not a healthy way to live. The reason why is, let me describe what healthy living is. Healthy living is about, first of all, seeing the self as having four parts: the physical body, the mind, the emotions, and the soul. These four parts are connected to each other. If one goes down, they all go down. If you focus only on one, the other three get sick, and then it pulls the fourth one down too. Still get sick. So we have to do our best to take care of all four parts as best as we can. I don't mean to become extremist. No, I don't mean that. The best as you can. Some days you might be able to do more than others. That's okay. That's the way life is. Sometimes some days we're stronger, sometimes we're not. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people believe they have to get stronger every day. That's not healthy thinking. That's a linear thinking, to go in only one direction. Life is not like that. Reality is not like that. And reality begins inside of you. Inside of you is not like that. Sometimes you feel you can do more on some days than you can on other days. That's just natural. So when somebody says, oh, I got to make it hotter in the sweat lodge every time I do the sweat lodge ceremony, that's unhealthy thinking. Some people say, I have to make it as hot as possible so we suffer as much as possible. And that really sounds Catholic. That's not Lakota. But still, it's linear thinking. That's not the ancient way. So, you take care of these four parts of yourself, and where they connect inside of you is the sacred area. This is your sacred center. This area has no language, it has no culture. This is where you begin. There's no skin color there. That's a sacred area. There's some sacred things that dwell there. One is from the earth. One is from the universe. Like I said, this is where reality begins. This is not Indian. This is not Japanese, German, or whatever. This has no culture. This is what we all have. And it's the same thing. This is what connects us all. This is what says we are all human beings. This is what says we are Ikje Oyate. We are the human nation. So as we take care of these four parts, part of that process includes getting to know ourselves. And when we do that, we are facing the difficulties from the past, one by one. And some of them connect to others. So sometimes we face one and end up we're facing all of them. And we take care of all of it in one arrow, so to speak. Because they were all connected. Now sometimes it's like that. So you learn from it, make the best of it. That's how you come to peace with it. And you receive wisdom, knowledge. And when you think about it, it doesn't make you feel anything anymore. Because you've released it. Yeah, facing your difficulties from the past, yes, it's going to bring emotions because it's part of it. So that's why the sooner that you make the best of it and learn from it, as much knowledge as you can, those emotions leave. They're not inside you anymore. They're not holding you back anymore. They're not trapping you anymore. You're not living in it anymore. You've let it go. Now you have peace. And difficulties are a part of life. But so are good times. Both of them are a part of life. We go through both. But when you learn from your difficulties, see, this helps you to learn from the difficulties that are going to come to you in the future. You know how to deal with them. You're not scared of them anymore. And you know that when they come, what it is it's something that's in progress. It's not done yet. It's in progress. It's leading to a new situation. It's like you're being thrown in the middle of the road and you don't know where it's going yet. So you stand up and you look around and start exploring it and making the best of it, getting to know it, becoming acquainted with it, and then you know where it's going. By that time, you're there and you're in a nice area. You've turned it into a blessing. You've transformed that difficulty into a blessing. Because you did that to your past. You got to know yourself. You know yourself now. And when good times come to you, you enjoy them even more than you ever did before. They feel even better because all that emotional baggage from your past is gone. So when good things happen to you, you feel that even more. And the other thing is, it helps you to remember good times that happened in the past that you may have forgotten. And when you remember that, it's like experiencing that joy. Look at with the good times, yeah. When you're looking at the good times in your past, after you've released the energy from your difficulties from your past, the good times from your past, you enjoy it even better than when it happened. That's medicine. Yeah? So that means, too, that the good times that are still coming to you, you're going to be able to enjoy those more than you ever did before. That's a really nice way to live. This is not a religion. It's not a ceremony. What you need to do is live. Because your life is a ceremony. You are the sacred item. You don't need a medicine bag or a pipe or a book or a rock or a magic wand. Or you need you to live your life in a healthy way. You are the sacred item. You are a blessing. You were born that way. And when you live this healthy way that I just explained, you fulfill it. The blessing way comes out of you. And you know that it's important that when you need help to ask for it. A warrior asks for help. A coward thinks he knows it all. And a warrior gives help and a warrior asks for help. And when I say a warrior, I mean a man and a woman. I don't mean just men. That's the warrior way. This healthy way of living, when you live this way, you don't see things as good versus evil. Because you also learn that there's at least 3 components to everything. There's at least 3 perspectives to everything. And it's not about which one is good and which one is bad. It's about how can I learn? Or maybe it can learn from me. Or maybe it just confirms something I already know. Or maybe it's something else. Or maybe it's nothing. You never know until you check it out. And you've done that to your life. Yeah, you're at peace with yourself. So this is a natural thing that you do. You know yourself. You took the time to check yourself out. So when you encounter something new for the first time, you check it out. That's a healthy thing to do. So you're not doubting it. You're just checking it out. That's all you're doing. Other people might say, oh, come on, quit doubting it. No, you're not doubting it. You're doing the right thing. You're being healthy to check it out. If it's something you've never experienced before, you have to check it out. You have to take that time to examine it. Try to find out at least 3 perspectives, because there's always going to be at least 3. And once you find that 3rd perspective, then at that point you will know if there's more than 3. Because sometimes there is. Not everything has the same amount of perspectives. And the other thing is, just because something has more perspectives, that does not make it better. It does not make it more enlightened. Not at all. Because to think like that would be linear thinking. I met a fake healer over here in Berlin. He put the name Christ in his name. But I refuse to call him that. And he was talking about the Indian way. He says, I've discovered the 13th dimension. And I'm like, yeah, here we go. Let's see what kind of bullshit flows from here. And he went on and on and on, and it was all nonsense. He was making a mountain out of a molehill. It was not necessary. See, this is what some people want to do. They want to make life as complex as possible. They want to see life as having all these complexities, so that way, if they say they know these complexities, that puts them above other people, so they can say, we are healers, we are shamans, we are whatever. But it's still a linear way of thinking. Now here's the other thing. Let's say a situation has 5 perspectives, okay? Even if the person can only see 3, that's okay. That's okay. I'll tell you the reason why. In our way, like I said, we are non-linear. We don't go from point A to point B, to C to D, to in a straight line. We might go forward, but then after some time has passed, we come back to where we've already been. Because we've changed now. We have developed more, which means we're able to see more. So we come back to the past, and we look at it again. And we end up seeing more. Now do you understand? If a person only sees 3 perspectives of a 5-perspective situation, I said that's okay. Because the person is on the right track. The person is still not seeing good versus evil. That's healthy. They only see 3 perspectives, and that's okay. They can just learn from those 3 perspectives and then continue on. After some time comes back, that person can come back to that situation again, and the chance is very great that the person will then see the 2 additional perspectives that they missed before, because they know more now. They're more developed. You see what I mean? This is non-linear learning. This is circular learning. In the Western way, it's a linear way. The modern Western world, it's a linear system of learning. So they only go in one direction. So if you, at point B, you're encountered with this situation with 5 perspectives, they only see 2 and then move on. They never come back to it because to them, that's regressing. That's de-evolving, to go backwards. That's how they see it. So they only see 2 perspectives and then they move on. They continually move on, only looking for 2 perspectives. They don't believe there's a third one. That's duality. They only see 2 perspectives. They say there's only 2. They say there's only this and that. And that's it. That's duality. But in the Lakota way, what I explained, with the non-linear thinking, it's this, that, and the other. And as long as you see those 3, you're on the right track. So if a situation has 7 perspectives, but you just see 3, that's okay. Don't worry about it. In the future, you may see it. Because you're still on the right track, because you're not seeing things as this, that. You're seeing things as this, that, and the other. That's still good enough. So in the Lakota way, you're going to come back again and look at it. And in the future, you might be able to see it, and that's fine. And even if you don't live that long to come back, that's still fine, because you saw the 3 perspectives, the basic 3. You saw those. You've seen those. And that's all that matters. That's the most important. That's more important, I should say. So if you don't see all of them at once, don't worry about it. As long as you see 3, you're on the right track. Now there's people who say they have to see all perspectives before they move to the next one. That's linear thinking again. That is not our way. That's putting unnecessary stress upon their lives. And that's going to make them physically sick. And it's going to sicken that which is around them, because they're exuding or giving off an unhealthy energy with their linear thinking. That's not peace. This is the Lakota way of looking at things. This is the ancestral way of looking at things. This is our learning style. To me, it shows compassion. And it also says that just because you don't see everything at once, it doesn't make you dumb. It doesn't make you less than. It just means you're not there yet, and that's fine. We're all on journeys. We're all going to come to situations where we're not going to see everything yet, but as long as we see 3, we're okay. That's the most important thing. The other perspectives that we don't see, they're not any less important, but what is important is that we see 3. This way we don't categorize as good versus evil. Because if we just see two, the tendency is going to come where we say, which is the good one? Which one of them is good? And this is how humans create good versus evil. And then we take that to town and really develop that idea to the point of religions emerging, gods and devils and angels and demons. All that is a man-made concept, beginning with dualistic thinking of good versus evil. And then that goes in other directions by saying, join us, we are the good people. And then people will take it even further by saying, only people with our skin color are the correct people. That's racism. And then we say, you know what's wrong with your culture? If your culture was more like our culture, you guys would be better. Not only is that racism, that's ethnocentrism. And that leads to, we know what's right for you because we're smarter than you. And that leads to paternalism. And then we develop ideas by saying, our ways are the only ways. And that's dogma. All that comes from this dualistic way of thinking. When you live a healthy life, that I explained earlier, where you look for three perspectives, you get that way because, you, like I said, you've taken the time to check yourself out. And that process included, again, learning from your difficulties. And then all the emotions from those difficulties went away. They dissipated. And peace is there. Knowledge and wisdom, those are blessings. And now you can help others, and now you're ready to face the difficulties that are still going to come. But you don't see them as bad. You're not scared of them anymore. They may shake you, they may throw you, they may take you by surprise. But then you stand up and you face it and deal with it. Make the most out of it that you can. Learn from it as much as you can. If you need help, you ask for it. We are designed to communicate. That means we're designed to help one another, to support one another, to ask for it, to give it. Our lungs teach us that with every breath. Inhale, exhale. We need to do both. So when you live this way, what you're doing is you're showing that you know yourself. And then that's going to come out in your communication. People are going to feel it because it's exuding from you. It's a healthy energy. And so you encounter something or someone for the first time, you take the time to check it out because that's what you've done to yourself. This is healthy communication. So when a person wants to learn, for example, about another culture, a healthy person is going to take his time or her time to check it out. That person is going to talk to as many people as they can to see what this culture is about. If that culture is still existing, they might even go there and talk to as many people as they can so that they get a really good idea of what they're like. If that culture is not there, then they go looking for reputable sources. They find sources, they check them out, and they try to check out as much as they can. See, they're reflecting the way they are inside of themselves by doing this. This is healthy. They're looking for all the perspectives as they can find. This is healthy. That's the way to do it. So if you want to learn about Lakota culture, you don't just read one book. If you're not anywhere close to where Lakota people are, yes, go ahead and look for books, but don't just believe everything you read. You have to read as much as you can and then get an idea. But you don't believe everything, because one of them could be total lies. So, like I said, somebody wrote to me one time saying, I've always been interested in native things, and right now I'm reading this book called Lame Deer Seeker of Visions. And I was like, oh boy, I don't recommend this book. It has duality in it. But how do you explain that to somebody? So I have to find out how smart they are first. Because I could say everything, but they're not capable of understanding what I said because they're not too smart to begin with. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not at all. I'm just saying I went over their heads and now they're really confused. So I made it worse. So I let them talk and so I can find out how do they think, how much do they understand, what are they capable of, and then I take it from there. And then I say, not everything about us is in books. And most of the books that are out there today are incorrect because of the duality. Now, why is that? The reason why most Lakota books are incorrect is because today most Lakota people are dualistic too. Not just Lakota people, but Indian people, First Nations people in Canada, Native American people in America. We are mostly dualistic today. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, Indians were put on reservations by force. And for some people, they were marched to desolate lands, but that's not everybody's story. For Lakota people, our reservations are remnants of our homeland, so we weren't marched off our lands. No, we were not. Instead, we lost land through treaties and so forth. And what ended up happening was that all Lakota tribes were separated from one another. And our reservations, like I said, are remnants of our original homeland. So we were not marched to some desolate land. Lakota reservations are very beautiful. Landscapes are incredibly beautiful. So we do not live in desolate lands. Not Lakota people, anyway. During that time, the reservations were like prisons, and we could not leave, and we were not allowed to have weapons, so we could not hunt, and the only foods that we were allowed to eat were what the government gave to us, which was really unhealthy food. Dried slab pork, dried goods, canned goods, all unhealthy things. The result is that Indians all over America and Canada developed diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. So we were hit physically. Remember what I said earlier, the self has 4 parts. Physical body, the mind, the emotions, and the soul. Okay. So we were hit physically. Then in April 10th, 1883, in America, there was a law that stated that all native languages and ceremonies are now illegal. So now we were hit emotionally and spiritually. Now we're hit in 3 of the 4 parts of the self. So we're deprived of healthy eating. We're deprived of our spiritual ways. We're deprived of our language. So we're hit in 3 areas. Next, the last area fell immediately. That was our minds. We became weak-minded after that. Then the churches came on the reservation, and they took advantage of the situation. At the same time, the United States cut up all reservations into small pieces of land and put every family on a piece of land and said, you be a farmer now. Then every family got a log cabin, a team, horses, a cow, a wagon, and some farm implements, and coffee beans, sugar, and certain kind of rations, as I stated earlier, and also farmer clothes. They were told to dress like farmers now. The reality is most of this land was not farmland, so Indians ended up selling their land because they were trying to feed their families. As at that time, only non-Indians had money, so on a lot of reservations in America, there is land within the reservation that does not belong to the tribe because of what I just said. And that land is under the jurisdiction of whatever state it's in, South Dakota, Arizona, or whatever. So, this broke up the community way of thinking among Indian societies. And so now we're all separated from one another. We don't see each other often. But the churches provided a once-a-week opportunity for people to see each other. So Indians looked forward to going to church so they could see each other, they could see their relatives, and they wanted to take as much advantage of that time as possible, so they really participated in church activities. At the same time, the priests learned our ways and said that our Lakota Star knowledge conflicts with the Holy Bible, that therefore that means that Lakota Star knowledge is from the devil. And this is what they said to our ancestors, so then our ancestors started to believe it because of their weak minds. See, this condition that our great-great-grandparents were in the early days of the reservation, this is the same condition that cult leaders bring their new recruits to. It's the same process that terrorists use on their new recruits as well, by depriving them of something so they can control their minds and feed them with misinformation and that they believe it as the truth. That's what they did to Indian people. This is how Indian people became incredibly Christian in the early 1900s. So children that were born in the 1920s and 30s and 40s were born in extremely Christian households. They might have heard the language because some people still spoke their language in the home, but in public they spoke English. So they might know the language, but still it's dualistic. Christianity is dualistic. You heard me explain what that was. Good versus evil. That Christianity results from that. So this is how Indians started to become dualistic thinking, by being Christian. As time goes on, they stop going to church. Some still go to church, but they still have that dualistic way of thinking. So today's Indians who say they're not Christian, since they're dualistic from their upbringing, when they look at Lakota traditional ways, all of a sudden now they're talking about good spirits and bad spirits. See, that comes from their Christian dualistic background. Lakota Star knowledge says there's no such thing. That's dualistic. And so this is why today most Indians cannot speak their language. And what little information they know of their culture is tainted. It's sanitized, Christian sanitized. That they don't know the complete versions of some stories. And they don't know most of what Lakota Star knowledge talks about. So that's why most Lakota people of today disagree with what I have to say. You see, I'm talking from the ancestral point of view, before we became dualistic. And today's Indians mostly are dualistic. So what you hear on this show is coming from the ancestors, not the Indians of today. And that's why the books that are available today mostly are incorrect, because they're dualistic. This is the reason why. There's just very few books that have no duality. Mine's one of them, which another one is Sons of the Wind. And 3 others are Lakota Myth. The second one's Lakota Belief and Ritual. And the third one's Lakota Society, because it's coming from the ancestral perspective. These 3 books come from a man who interviewed a lot of old Lakotas who refused to become Christians back in the late 1800s. The man who collected this information is known as James R. Walker. So when somebody hallucinates and says a good spirit talked to them, that's coming from what they were raised with. That information they were raised with that shows they have a Christian background in their family. It shows that they're thinking in a dualistic way. So when they hallucinate, they see things according to what's inside of them, which for them is duality. So they see things in terms of good versus evil. So if you go to a sweat lodge ceremony and a medicine man says he's burning sage to get rid of the bad spirits, a healthy person would know that this is a fake medicine man, because Lakota Star knowledge says this doesn't exist. That's duality. Do you see what I mean now? Okay. That's why I do not recommend very many books. Most Lakota people today disagree with what I have to say, and that's fine. Because I don't need their approval, I don't need their validation because they are dualistic. Dualism was created by man. It's not natural to see things as in only two parts. I'll give you some examples of dualistic sentences. When somebody says, if you're not part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. Even indifference is part of the problem. No, that's not true. Absolutely not. Because that's giving you only two choices. Remember what I said. Lakota Star Knowledge says, first of all, reality begins within, and then there's at least three perspectives to everything. So when somebody presents you with only two, they're disrespecting you. They're oppressing you. So that's a bullshit statement. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. That is duality. That's basically saying, if you're not with me, then you're against me. That's in the Bible. Obvious duality there. That's not the ancestral way. Since when is a problem bad? A problem is something that's not done yet. So you go to it and finish it. That finishing might just be learning from it. But you see, you've completed the task. And when you acquire knowledge, since when is that a bad thing? And this lame deer seeker of visions, this has duality in it. I mean, there's some interesting things in there, but there's also some false things in this book. And remember, this is the early 1900s when these guys were born. This lame deer seeker of visions. This is not a guy that was at the last stand at Little Bighorn. No, this guy was born during the days when Pine Ridge was becoming Catholic. So his perceptions have some Lakota truth to it, but there's some Catholic thinking in there too. And that means if it's tainted, then it's incomplete. That's why I don't recommend it. And seeing things as good versus evil, that takes away the beauty and power of healthy living. And trying to make things too complex also takes away from the beauty and power of living. So it's trying to say, well, hey, I see 13 dimensions, so that puts me at genius level, so that means I'm a healer. But I'm here for you. But see, that's not really the thought. Their thought was the first thing they said. That to understand more, whatever, that places them above other people. Even if they say, I'm your servant, they're still saying, we are above you. So I don't like hearing this nonsense of all these dimensions. That's not important. What's important is that you see the three perspectives. And to be a healer, if somebody has a website or a group that says they're healers, they're not. Because when a person is a real one, they stay out of the limelight. They don't want any attention like that because they don't want people to see them as above others because they don't see themselves above others. So they don't have websites. They don't have the internet. Some of them don't even have electricity. So you walk into their homes, you see bugs walking all over the place, and they don't see this as a problem because they're at one with everything. They communicate with these things. They're really a special kind of people, but they don't have websites. And they don't call themselves masters of this and masters of that, because using the word master is getting people to elevate them above others, and that is duality. Separating oneself from others by using a term like master, healer. No, our ancestors said we were Ixche Oyate. We are humans. We are the human nation. We help one another. We love one another. Even if we disagree with one another, we respect one another, and we don't force our ideas against one another. But when duality enters the scene, then we have to do something about it. but we don't eliminate it. We make it work for us. But we don't elevate ourselves above other people by using such terms. To read more about Lakota Star Knowledge Spirituality, you can read my book called Wichocha Otechike. You can see the book cover on the right side of this screen. This book contains the information to what I talk about on my Lakota spirituality videos. To purchase this book, please click below where it says Show More. Clicking on that link will open up the description below, and there you will see a link called To Purchase My Books. As you will see, it's an eBay link. Click on that eBay link, and there you will see the information to get this book. To learn more about speaking the Lakota language, you can read my book called Chante Etanha Ooglake, Speaking from the Heart. You can see the book cover on the right side of this screen. This book contains the information to what I talk about on my Lakota language mini lesson videos. To purchase this book, please click below where it says Show More. Clicking that link will open up the description below, and there you will see a link called To Purchase My Books. As you will see, it's an eBay link. Click on that eBay link, and there you will see the information to get this book. Lila Pilamayelo. Thank you very much.